Moving right along, let's get Sid Spreadbury up here. There's a lot of things that we often hear in the news. I remember Hurricane Katrina. I'm trying to find the bill right now for you, but I remember Hurricane Katrina. The cops were going around and they were confiscating firearms. This was a horrible act. Oath Keepers is an organization that asks the police officers and the military to take an oath not to do anything that would usurp the Constitution. There is a bill that is in this state here in New Hampshire that just wanted to give some service to real quick, and I'm trying to get through my paperwork. Gloves were not meant for this. And I lost, what was the bill number? 512. I want you to look out for 512. This is, by some people are calling this the Hurricane Katrina bill, and it would set a law in the state of New Hampshire that police officers in a time of crisis could not usurp your rights and just start willy-nilly taking your guns away. I'm sure Oath Keepers is all over this one. So,
hi all, can you hear me okay? My name is Sid Spreadbury and I'm a member of various program organizations. I'm a manufacturing engineer and work in the firearms industry. I have 35 plus years in the industry working for 4 major firearms manufacturers. Many of you probably own one or more of the firearms from the manufacturers that I work for. I'm a republic form of government advocate. Much to the disappointment of those that believe it, we are not a democracy. I'm a pro-constitutionalist and a 3%er. My pilgrimage to fight to keep my God-given constitutionally guaranteed rights began back in 1989 when Patrick Purdy opened fire on a schoolyard in Stockton, California. Soon after, the antis were beating the drums for more gun control. This was the first time I heard the phrase assault weapon. A Massachusetts lawyer teamed up with a few weak-kneed liberals and introduced legislation to ban assault weapons here in New Hampshire. I didn't know much at the time, but I did know this was an attack on my guaranteed rights according to the Constitution. I had no idea what I was doing, but I started a petition against the legislation. In a matter of 3 days, I was able to gather more than 600 signatures and I headed for Concord. I found a hearing room and at the door was Al Rebager, the president of Go New Hampshire at the time. I went up and introduced myself and told him about my petition, but I had no idea what to do with it. Al asked if he could introduce it when he spoke on the floor. It was a proud moment for me when Al held up my petition and announced he was introducing it into the documentation for the committee's review. That's when I realized one person can make a difference. Why do I relay this story? It's to show that one person can make a difference. So many times I talk to like-minded people that are not happy with the way government is trampling our rights at every turn. When I ask what they're doing about it, I get the blank stare and the "I can't make a difference" speech. To me, that's the exact attitude that has gotten us to this point. We are the masters of this government. However, we have shunned our responsibility to keep it under control and have allowed it to intimidate us. We must understand that one person can make a difference. Once you become that one person, you will soon realize you're not alone. It really is we the people. In the time since, I have been in many discussions with antis. It's common practice for them, when the facts don't support their argument, to resort to name-calling and intimidation. I have been called everything you can imagine over the years. Evil, a Nazi, a child killer, right-wing wacko, domestic terrorist, on and on. If they find out I work in the industry, I get the inevitable, "How can you make killing machines? Don't you care about the children? Don't you have any remorse? And you are an evil person." To which I respond, "No, I'm not evil, and yes, I care about the children." Blaming the object, being the gun, for the evil that pulls the trigger is asinine. Would you ask the same question of an auto worker that worked on an auto that a drunk driver used to kill a family? Wouldn't your asinine argument pertain to that situation too? I can tell you what I am proud of though. I'm proud I make a product that so many take so much pleasure with in the field. A product that is handed down from generation to generation. A product that has brought home many wins in competitions. A product that is used to defend life in such agencies as the FBI, the CIA, Secret Service, Special Ops, and Police. But most of all, I'm proud I make a product the working man can use to defend his family against evil. A 100-pound woman can use to ensure she makes it home to her family without fear of being raped and murdered. Usually that is followed by the "it's not the same" argument, along with a string of expletives, an attack on my character, and a conversation ending. It's okay though, I know I've won. I do not let them use their intimidation to silence me, and neither should you. So what can one person do? Stand for your conviction. Do not let them intimidate you into silence. Get involved. Keep up with the legislation being introduced in these hallowed halls. Know your representatives. Don't be afraid to contact them. Tell them how you think they should vote. After all, they work for you. Last, get others involved. Reach out to those that feel they can't make a difference and make them understand they can. Many want to understand one thing, and that is our rights are being stripped by tyrannical state and federal governments. The UN is attempting to override our Constitution. And we have the foundation brewing for a world government. All of these entities have one thing in common. They all want to remove our arms. Whenever an entity says that you cannot be trusted to have arms to defend yourself and your family from enemies foreign and domestic, that is the time you need to be armed. The 3% term comes from our forefathers' struggle for independence. It is estimated that only 3% of the population took up arms against England. The war was not fought over taxes, as some are led to believe. The war was not fought over taxes, as some are led to believe. The protest was over taxes, but the war was fought because they attempted to disarm us. So who are the 3%ers? They are some of our reps, news bloggers, engineers, teachers, firearms experts, blue-collar workers, communications experts, business owners, political activists, survivalists, preppers, and probably some of your friends and neighbors. We are a network of like-minded people that are politically active in trying to change the direction of our country. We hope and fight for good times, and we prepare in case they're bad. We prepare to take care of our own and our neighbors if disaster strikes, be it natural or man-made. We all share our knowledge and expertise with other members of the 3%. We are not radicals, nor wackos. We are just concerned citizens that are working to make a better life for us and our children. So please do not listen to the rhetoric that we are some wacko group you must fear. The ones you need to fear are the ones spreading these lies and generating this fear. Our forefathers were brilliant men, brilliant thinkers, and men of honor. Understand that careful thought went into everything they did. It isn't an accident that the First and Second Amendments are placed first and second. First, they understood that freedom of speech you needed freedom of speech to rally like-minded people to your point of view. It needed to be protected, as many times this point of view would conflict with the ruling authority. All throughout history, dissidence against the ruling authority has been quelled through intimidation, incarceration, and murder. Our forefathers knew well that this form of speech must be protected, or men could never be free and independent. Second, they had just fought a war for independence against a tyrannical king. This never would have happened if not for their arms. They knew without the teeth of having equal armament as equal armaments of the ruling authority, then anything they put to paper would be mere suggestions and could be disregarded on a whim. So how did we get the Bill of Rights? Most of you know it was James Madison that drafted the Bill of Rights, but why did he do that? It is said the Puritans came here to flee religious prosecution, and that is true. However, they were no better than those they sought to escape. The colonies were charters granted at the king's pleasure. However, each charter included what laws were to govern that colony and what religion would be practiced within the township. Also within the charter, it was specified that only a church authorized by the charter was allowed, and you had to plead allegiance to said religion before you could hold office within the charter. If you were caught practicing religion not authorized by the charter township, people were punished by being tarred and feathered, beaten, put in stockades and incarcerated, tortured, and even killed. One such entity that knew of these atrocities was the Virginia General Baptist Convention. The Baptists were not fond of the Constitution as they felt it did not ward against religious prosecution enough. A leader of this entity was John Leland, a prominent Baptist minister. He was a shoo-in to go to the Convention of States for the ratification of the Constitution. However, he had no desire to go to the convention and felt his time was better spent ministering his flock. So John Leland reached out to James Madison, told him he would throw his support behind Madison, which would guarantee his Virginia seat at the convention, if he would promise him one thing. He must do everything in his power to ensure that religious freedom was guaranteed within the framework of the Constitution. With Leland's backing, Madison won the election to represent Virginia. However, Madison was beholden to the promise to John Leland to do all he could to ensure religious freedom. So Madison drafted the Bill of Rights. There was a big fight on the convention floor on whether it should be incorporated into the Constitution. For people that think those that fought against it were not for freedom, you are wrong. I will paraphrase the thoughts on both sides so I don't have to get into Old English. Richard Henry Lee best portrayed the argument for the Bill of Rights. He said the people could not be relied upon to guard our liberty, and the Bill of Rights would be a sentinel and visual constant reminder to the people. In essence, he said the people would get lazy in their luxury. They would get pacified in their prosperity and lose focus on their liberties. Boy, he was a visionary. Alexander Hamilton had one of the best arguments against the incorporation of the Bill of Rights. He said, if you write these rights down, it will be a dangerous thing. It will contain exceptions to powers that have not been granted and would afford the pretext to claim more power than granted. Why declare that a thing shall not be done for which there is no power to do? Why declare the liberty of the press shall not be restrained when no power is given by which restriction can be imposed? What Hamilton meant was the Constitution was already defined with very limited powers to which the federal government could have control. None of these powers pertain to any of the rights incorporated in the Bill of Rights. All the power remained with the states and the people. Only limited power was delegated, not given to the federal government. By adding the Bill of Rights, he feared that anything not specified as a right could be construed as open for regulation by the government. Also, the rights it guaranteed would need to be defined so that the government would not intrude on them, i.e., what speech, where, what firearms, where and when. Both these men were visionaries. Their fears had come to pass with this government. It is due to our complacency as we the people, not upholding our end of liberty, we have allowed this to happen. If we the people understood what was bestowed upon us by these great men, we would understand the power lies in our hands, and we can change the direction of this country. But many will say it's too far gone and cannot be repaired, while our esteemed forefathers also considered that. The New Hampshire Constitution not only guarantees us the Second Amendment, Article 2A, the right to keep and bear arms, but also the 10th Amendment, Article 10, the right to revolution. Government being suited for the common benefit, protection, and security of the whole community, and not for the private interest or emolument of any one man, family, or class of men. Therefore, whenever the ends of government are perverted, the public liberty manifestly endangered, and all other means of redress are ineffectual, the people may, and outright ought to, reform the old or establish a new government. The doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power is oppression against arbitrary power and oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive to the good and happiness of mankind. So you see, our brilliant forefathers saw what we would become, and within the governing documents bestowed upon us the means to always be able to throw off the chains of oppression if we so choose. We are the masters, and once we relearn what they knew, we can change the direction of this government. There are three ways to reform government: the ballot box, the jury box, and the cartridge box. Our forefathers allowed us all three because they knew, as George Washington said, government is like fire, a dangerous servant and a fearful master. I hope you understand how precious this document is and how much forethought went into it. This founding was done by brilliant men who gave up treasure and shed blood on the battlefield to win their independence. They understood tyranny and they gave us the means to ward against it. It was the first time in the history of mankind that men of valor won their independence, then gave the power to the common people and went back to their farms and businesses. George Washington was so popular after the war that many wanted to make him king. George Washington said, and I quote, "I did not fight George III to become George I." Outside Independence Hall, when the Constitutional Convention of 1787 ended, Mrs. Powell of Philadelphia asked Benjamin Franklin, "Well, doctor, what have we got?" With no hesitation whatsoever, Franklin responded, "A republic, if you can keep it." So understand that all government, federal, state, and local, is there for one reason and one reason only: to secure the liberty and freedom and independence as free men and women for the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It is not there to coddle, regulate for safety, and give handouts to those who can vote for it. The teeth that guarantee we can always return to the principles of this republic is in the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. If we lose that, we lose everything. Thank you very much.
I think it's worth repeating that the Second Amendment guarantees all our rights, and if we lose it, we lose everything, and that is certainly doesn't go without saying multiple times. All right, move.
Crop TV.